Hello, I am Mr. Heng Chi Chief, a native Cambodian. I have always taken a great interest in helping vulnerable individuals. I am the founder and the president of ACODO. I am ultimately responsible for the welfare and education of all the vulnerable and victimized children at the orphanage and in the communities. As the founders, I have been working at ACODO since the NGOs was established at the start of 2008. I started ACODO after working for 10 years in local and international organizations, including 4 years as a director of an English language school.
About ACODO. What are the missions of ACODO? The mission statement of ACODO is to combat the dilemmas of illiteracy and poverty among the orphans and vulnerable children, children with HIV or AIDS, children abusing drugs, children undertaking illegal activities, children suffering sexual harassment and exploitation, child labourers, and disabled children. ACODO aims to improve the livelihoods of impoverished families by undertaking 6 activities: an orphanage, a life skills program, a vocational skills program, an indigent family support program, an agriculture program, and community training centres. These promote self-sufficiency, empower self-development, build self-confidence, reduce poverty, and encourage long-term economic independence amongst Cambodians' poorest and most vulnerable groups. ACODO strives to relieve children suffering from a life of danger, deprivation and exploitation by providing them with a safe and loving home. ACODO wants to create an environment where they can gain social values, learn and prepare themselves for a responsible adult life. Every life has equal value, and every child has the right to an enjoyable childhood. ACODO believes that education is the bedrock for sustainable change. It is a basic right that no person should be denied. Education fosters self-confidence, self-sufficiency, and tolerance towards others. ACODO teaches life and vocational skills to the most underprivileged children in the Kingdom of Cambodia. For how many years does ACODO exist? ACODO was established on the 1st of January 2008 and became a registered charity with the Royal Cambodian Government on the 14th of July 2008. Since then, ACODO has been operating as an orphanage by providing nutritious food, shelter, high-quality education, and a loving home to some of Cambodia's most vulnerable children. We are now in the process of expanding so that we can help more destitute children who live in rural communities in Siem Reap province, which the World Bank estimates is one of the poorest parts of Southeast Asia and the wider. Who created ACODO? How did it start? Mr. Heng Chi founded ACODO at the start of 2008. However, he was working on the project throughout 2007 in order to raise the initial funding and arrange all the paperwork so that he was able to open in 2008 and start giving many vulnerable children a life-changing opportunity. He resigned from his teaching job at Siem Reap universities. He and his wife sold virtually all their personal assets, car, house, etc., in order to provide the initial finance for the charity. In 1967, he was born into a rural community in Battambang province, Cambodia. His family was extremely poor. He had 9 siblings. A childhood dominated by war and extreme poverty had a profound effect on his future. It inspired him to create ACODO so that he could work towards giving some of the most destitute members of society, such as orphans and vulnerable children, the same opportunities that he eventually benefited from. He wants to provide them with a loving home so that they can flourish into their adulthood. He is forever grateful to the other co-founders, all the staff, volunteers and supporters from around the world. Without their invaluable help, ACODO would not be able to transform the lives of so many orphans, vulnerable and victimized children. The reason why he decided to create ACODO? He founded ACODO as he believed that there were many impoverished children in the Kingdom of Cambodia that were in desperate need of help. He was aware that there were many rural communities in the Kingdom of Cambodia that did not have enough basic foodstuffs or access to schools that could provide a high-quality education. Heng Chiev knew that the Royal Cambodian Government would like to be able to support these communities, but did not have the financial resources to do so. About the children, how many children is he working with? Today, ACODO operates an orphanage which has a capacity for 76 children. The orphanage really is a place of hope, aspiration and kindness. The 12 ACODO community training centres have a capacity to reach and support a further 1,500 vulnerable and victimised children directly, 3,300 weak and poor students, and 7,500 family members indirectly. At both the orphanage and the community training centres, the ACODO kids learn to become tomorrow's adults. They learn to be independent, skillful, and able to contribute towards society. They live together as a family and learn to support one another. ACODO employs 25 members of staff. They are working very hard all day, every day. In addition, volunteer teachers from around the world are recruited to teach the English language classes. ACODO only employs Khmer citizens to minimize the wage bill. ACODO does not employ any foreign nationals. How old are they? At the ACODO orphanage, the children vary from 16 months to 21 years of age. At the ACODO community training centres, the age of the children varies from 6 to 25. Why are they here? The ACODO orphanage accepts orphans, children from extremely poor single-parent families, and disabled children. Many have experienced powerlessness in the ultimate form. Their lives have been governed by fear. Fear of violence, fear of not having enough food, fear of having no opportunities to improve their lives. Many are former homeless street children who were vulnerable to exploitation from others. ACODO saved them from becoming beggars, prostitutes or criminals. They no longer have to scavenge in the local garbage bins for their next meal. Prior to accepting the children, the ACODO staff visit their home or community to assess their individual needs and situation. The staff members also visit communities to raise awareness about ACODO. Many of the children have progressed from street kids with no long-term goals to children with challenging career desires. Their ambitions vary from being a tour guide, an engineer, a language teacher, an art teacher, or a doctor. The children have a real thirst for knowledge and are working very hard to achieve their aspirations. About the financial resources. Where does the financial resource come from? Since inception, all of ACODO's infrastructure and annual running costs have been solely financed by donations from compassionate individuals around the world. ACODO has operated without any financial or practical help from governments and national or international aid organizations. ACODO has not received any corporate sponsorship. The majority of ACODO's income is spent directly on the welfare of the children. Less than 20% of the total income is spent on the administration of the charity. How much money is spent on ACODO projects every month? The operating costs for the ACODO headquarters are $22,339 per month. The operating costs for the ACODO orphanage are $24,301 per month. The operating costs for the 12 ACODO community training centres are $40,327 per month. In September 2010, we opened an ACODO farm so that we could work towards operating on a self-sufficient basis and not be reliant on irregular donations. Currently, the farm costs around $12,747 per month to be fully operational. So, the financial requirements of the ACODO projects to cover its activities each month is $99,714 and $1,196,568 in total per year to operate its main activities within 12 communities and the 11,405 vulnerable children being supported by ACODO programs. The ACODO Main Orphanage Project. Currently, the ACODO orphanage is situated on rented land very close to the Siem Reap River. Over the years, we have experienced severe flooding, which has resulted in government plans to resettle over 1,000 families living along the Siem Reap River as part of a project to widen the river to protect the town from the effects of flooding. ACODO has been granted a 6-hectare site which will be a permanent home for the new ACODO Main Orphanage in the future. Plans are to build a school, hospital, children's accommodation, offices, workshop, theatre, etc. Currently, the area allocated has no school or medical facilities. Our project will serve the needs of around 1,500 local families' education and health care requirements and allow the community to participate in vocational skills training and employment opportunities. We urgently need funding as we want to start as soon as possible. About the sustainability of a financial resource in the future. Hopefully the ACODO farm will be our principal source of income in the future. Until now, our funding has come entirely through personal donations, with the charity dance show at the orphanage, and fundraising around the country during school holidays, raising additional income. We recognize that this is not a perfect situation, and that is why we set up the ACODO farm, to hopefully be our principal source of income in the future. When the farm is providing enough revenue, we will look to phase out the dance show, but the children will continue to dance as one of their activities. Once completed, the farm will be able to support ACODO in 3 ways. Food for the children at the ACODO orphanage and the ACODO community training centres, food and assistance for the indigent family support programs, and finally, urgently needed revenue from the sale of excess produce at local markets. However, in order to get the farm fully operational, we need to buy some essential equipment. We need to invest in order to become self-sufficient in the future. This is a crucial point in our development, as we do not want to keep asking for further donations. By the start of 2012, we will urgently require some vehicles and materials to set up a water cleaning system into and out of the fish ponds to change the dirty water, and also for the clean water to be used throughout the farm. We will also need a large amount of fuel to build the circle dike and irrigation channels, protection against flooding, and the fish ponds. All vehicles at the farm will also be used as part of our indigent family support program, targeting remote families and the extended families of children in the ACODO orphanage and ACODO community training centres, by offering practical help, for example, building fish ponds or irrigation channels and to plough the rice fields on their land. Over time, we will also need further help with different projects on the farm. If the ACODO farm project sounds of interest to you, please feel free to contact us for details. About Cambodia. Do you think there are enough NGOs or associations for children in Cambodia? I would say there are enough NGOs and associations for Cambodian children. Many operate well without corruption. However, some do not exist to support the real vulnerable children in Cambodia. There is no corruption at ACODO. We are fully audited by the regional and national governments. Recently, ACODO was ranked as one of the best orphanages within Siem Reap province for welfare of the children and financial prudence. We operate in an open and transparent format. What are the main difficulties that ACODO faces? The main difficulties for operating the ACODO project that is faced so far are a lack of financial support, funding for new construction projects for a new ACODO main orphanage building site for schools, hospital, children's accommodation, office, workshop, theatre, etc., because the current ACODO orphanage is on rented land. ACODO has operated without any financial or practical help from governments and national or international aid organizations. ACODO has not received any corporate sponsorship. Finally, ACODO has no long-term volunteers for community and farming projects. Thank you very much indeed for listening to our story. Please help to make the dreams of our destitute children a reality by sponsoring the ACODO projects.